And our expert, Eric Guster, has been following this case with us. Eric, what does the state want out of Gypsy as they close things up?
Well, they're closing it out with some powerful testimony from the inmate. So I would suspect that there may be something that Gypsy did not say the first time. And also, they need to tie in all the information in reference to him saying his wife was in prison, which one of the inmates testified to. Well, a couple of them actually testified to that. So they may ask her about when was she in prison, if she was actually married to him, to make him out, Mr. McNeil, out to be a liar.
Got it. Okay. Well, you mentioned the inmates. Mr. Jason Poyer's still on the stand.
Yes.
He says, and here's the quote again, that he says McNeil told him, "I'm getting away with murdering my wife." That's the money soundbite they wanted that jury to hear, right?
Right. And that's what they needed, someone to say, I got away with murder and I killed her. However, this is a guy who has all types of crimes of moral turpitude. That's the formal legal statement of it. A crime of moral turpitude is a crime where a person has lied or stolen, and quite frankly, he has the ability to lie. He had fake Rolexes, he's stolen things, and in his particular case, he was on last chance probation, which means this was this guy's last chance to stay out of prison. So I know the jury is looking at that and saying, this guy will say anything to stay out of prison. He's violated the law time and time again. He also mentioned that he had prior thefts, which means he keeps stealing, which means he keeps being dishonest, which makes people think, is he honest now? Being that he's stolen so much, he's on last chance probation, which is the last chance before you go back to prison. So this is not the most honest guy in the world. Yeah,
and you're right. What's the jury going to do with his credibility? Well, let's get back in. Eric, again, he's been cross-examined by the defense attorney who's attacking all the trouble this guy's in. And is he talking to maybe get a better situation behind bars? So we hit the play button. Let's go back. There you go. There's Jillian Gypsy Willis. She's going to be back on the stand. She's the central figure, one of, in this case. The prosecution says she's motive for murder. Martin McNeil was obsessed with her and had to have his wife Michelle out of the way, so he killed her so he could be with Gypsy. She's coming back. So what's the prosecution want and need out of her? Let's go back to our expert, Eric Guster, who's been following this so closely. All right, Eric, because that's her story. This is casual. The prosecution saying, no, it wasn't. This was amping up into the days and weeks leading up to Michelle McNeil's death.
Right, and that's one of the things that they need to get out of her right now, because he was saying that his wife is in prison, which means that it was much more than just a casual relationship. And the prosecution's case is really going in the tank with the witnesses that we've just seen, where you have someone who's a drug dealer, thief, fraudulent person, and they're relying on these people's testimony. So they really need to get to the core of their case, and that is Gypsy, the relationship he had with Gypsy, and it was much more than just a casual thing than what Gypsy has said before. You know, she said it was just a fling, no big deal, we were just kind of together, and they're trying to get to the core of that.
Okay, so real quick, so that kind of ties it up for our viewers here, Eric, that we're all into the prison thing, but the key thing that maybe the prosecution brings Gypsy back for is the wife reference.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, and that makes it much more than just a casual affair. He was saying that his wife is in prison. That person is Gypsy, not the wife who is deceased. So that makes it much more serious than what she tried to do on the stand, which all of us are speculating that she still loves him, and that may be the reason that she tried to lighten the relationship so that he could help him get off these charges.
Got it. Okay.
Eric Guster, criminal defense attorney. All right, Eric, so you know, I think this is a better day for the prosecution.
It is.
You've got people stepping up saying the doc said this happened, I gave her drugs, I held her under the water. That's big, but then there's the credibility factor. How is this playing out for you in terms of whether it's a successful strategy or if it's still falling short?
It's a much better day for the prosecution than yesterday, because yesterday it was a train wreck. However, today they have witnesses who are specifically saying the doctor said I killed my wife. And that's what they need in order to pull their case together. And that's why I think they're going to bring back Gypsy to try to tie in some of the things to make sure they understand about their credibility.
And not just that he killed his wife, but how he did it. And that's been something that's really been missing here, because you can say she drowned, but she could have done that accidentally. You could say she overdosed, but she could have done that herself. The fact that he held her underwater, do you think that that visual is powerful enough to overcome the fact that this is coming from an inmate?
I think that's going to help them a lot. However, that's why the defense attorney is going to cross-examination now about internet access, phone access, because they were talking about Nancy Grace interviews, and all this information came out already about her, the drugs in her system and her drowning. So anyone can come up with a story.
Yeah.
He told me this. This is how he did it, because that's what HLN has been talking about, the method of how she died.
Yeah, and the question of why would he do that? Well, if I can make up that story, maybe I can get a little less time off that sentence. Right. But then the other thing, and we were all talking about that, when this witness talked about how, oh, some of my relatives tried to send me some information, but I knew that might take me for what I mean, it sounded like a lawyer, like you read it right out of a book.
Okay.
So is that a problem, or will the jury see that and say, well, I mean, the guy's trying to follow the rules?
No, they're going to know that was a smokescreen that this guy was
So
saying.
if that's a smokescreen, how can you trust what he's saying?
I don't think that all the jurors would necessarily trust what they're saying. The jurors will have information from the judge. They will have jury charges saying you can disregard part or all the testimony based upon the reliability of the witness. And I don't think that they're going to trust everything, so they may take bits and pieces of that person's testimony to get to the truth.
We've said all along this is a circumstantial case. Is this the tipping point, real quick?
It is. Circumstantial cases are just like puzzle pieces. You have to have all the pieces to fit, and if you miss one piece, it's reasonable doubt.
But that deciding piece, you're hanging on this guy, inmate number one.
I think so.
How about that?